Imagine rolling into the imperial capital with two best friends, pockets empty, head full of dreams, and absolutely zero street smarts. That's Tatsumi, a backwater boy who's never been scammed in his life and genuinely believes the capital is the promised land. Within 24 hours, he learns the hard truth. The city is a corrupt sewer where nobles treat commoners like livestock. He gets robbed, humiliated, and loses everything. But the real gut punch comes when a sweet rich girl takes him in, promises to help, and secretly tortures people to death for fun. Tatsumi only survives because an elite squad of assassins decides to deep clean her mansion. And just like that, a country bumpkin becomes a night raider, the deadliest blade of the revolution, slicing through the nobility's rot. Tatsumi marched into the imperial capital with 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐭𝐨 and ieyasu, two childhood friends, broke as a joke and high on hope. The plan was simple. Enlist, earn coin, send it back to the starving village. The capital split them up immediately. Tatsumi, being the perfect mark, got sweet-talked by a seductive woman who promised him a cushy army gig, took every last coin, and vanished into the night. Penniless, friendless, he slept on the streets. Then one night, a noble girl named Arya stopped her carriage, flashed a sugary smile, and offered him shelter. She looked like an angel. The family was loaded. The mom was a MILF, the dad a respected lord. Tatsumi thought his luck had finally turned. That mansion was a slaughterhouse, and he was the next slab of meat. That same night, a group of assassins stormed the estate. They were the Night Raid, a vigilante squad hunting corrupt nobles. While Tatsumi snoozed, Leon, Akame, Bulat, and the others turned the guards into mincemeat. He woke up to screams, sprinted to protect sweet Arya, and found a bloodbath. Akame used his head as a springboard to murder a guard. Leon strangled the girl's father until his neck snapped. Tatsumi tried to stop them, but Akame stabbed him clean through the chest, and only a lucky charm from his friends kept the blade from his heart. Then Leone kicked open the mansion's storage room. Inside, tortured corpses hung like broken dolls. Among them was 𝐂𝐨𝐴, his best friend, body covered in wounds. Ieyasu was still breathing in a cage, barely. He whispered the truth. Arya had invited them in, drugged them, and tortured them to death for sport. Even exposed, the girl felt zero remorse. To her, villagers were cattle, disposable toys. Tatsumi, who moments ago had begged for her life, grabbed his sword and ended her himself. Ieyasu, seeing justice served, coughed blood and died in his arms, at peace. Akame was ready to bounce, but Leon decided on the spot that Tatsumi was their new mascot. She dragged him by the hair, ignored his protests, and declared him a member of the Night Raid. Bulat, a jacked gay warrior with a heart of gold, carried the kid to their hideout. The next morning, Tatsumi sat beside makeshift graves, hollow. Leone appeared, asked if he was joining. He refused. So she hauled him to Akame, who threatened to neuter his Asian charm if he didn't sign up. Mine, the explosive tsundere, mocked him relentlessly. Najenda, the one-eyed boss, listened to his story and gave him a choice: join or stay locked up forever, since he knew their location. She explained that the Night Raid was the armed fist of the Revolutionary Army, hunting corrupt nobles who crushed the innocent. Tatsumi, finally seeing a purpose, accepted. He had no idea what he was signing up for. After Tatsumi agreed to join Night Raid, he genuinely thought he was signing up with legendary heroes, righteous warriors swinging blades against evil. The second he said that out loud, the entire squad burst out laughing. Bulat, Leone, mine, even Akame cracked a smile. "We're not heroes, kid," Leone said, wiping a tear. "We're assassins. The difference is, we kill the corrupt ones." That was reality check number 1. Reality check number 2 hit when Najenda assigned Akame as his trainer, and his very first task wasn't learning how to sever heads. It was learning how to chop vegetables. Tatsumi, the only person in the hideout who could actually cook, became the official chef. While the others ran emergency missions, he stayed back whipping up feasts. Mine, the explosive tsundere, never missed a chance to roast him. "Your only blade is a kitchen knife, because you're a little girl." Tatsumi just gritted his teeth and kept dicing onions. But the apron life didn't last long. Leon soon brought in 2 new targets, Ogre and Gamal, corrupt nobles who framed innocent people to cover their crimes. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 greenlit the case immediately. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was the type of target who traveled with a squad of soldiers and had solid swordsmanship. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, desperate to prove he wasn't just a cook, volunteered to take down 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 solo. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 objected. She didn't think he had the resolve to kill without hesitation. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 insisted, full of confidence, and eventually got the mission. Before he left, Leone told 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 about 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 past. She and her twin sister, 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, were bought by the Empire as children and thrown into an assassin training program. 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 survived, became a killing machine in service to the Empire, but when she discovered the rot behind the orders, 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 convinced her to defect. Along the way, she lost many allies. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 understood then that her coldness was armor over deep scars. While Leone and 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 took down Gamal in secret, 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 went after 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆. He approached the man on the street, pretending to want to enlist in the army. He managed to lure him into a secluded alley. The moment he drew his sword, 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 sensed the killing intent and attacked first. But 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was fast, blisteringly fast. He slashed 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's gut and thought he'd won. He lowered his guard. 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, with a dying surge of fury, rose up and started pounding 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 with brutal blows, slamming him into a wall. The ground cracked beneath them. 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, thinking he'd won, began boasting about the innocent people he'd framed and executed. That ignited a rage in 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 unlike anything he'd ever felt. He got up, sliced off both of 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆's arms, then hacked him to pieces without mercy. Back at the hideout, blood-soaked but whole, 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was greeted with praise. 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 acknowledged his achievement. Full of pride, he turned to 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 and bragged, "Not a scratch." 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, without missing a beat, stripped his clothes off. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆 shrieked like a little girl curling up. "What are you doing?" She just wanted to check if he was wounded. When she confirmed he was unharmed, she quietly said he did a good job. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆, still flustered, apologized for doubting her. 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 replied that she didn't want an apology. She just wanted him to keep coming back alive. That sealed their new partnership. With his training under 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 officially wrapped, 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆 figured his next mentor couldn't possibly be worse than the emotionless human guillotine who just stripped him naked to check for scratches. The universe, as always, had other plans. 𝒂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 assigned him to mind, the pink-haired tsundere with a cannon bigger than her body and an attitude problem the size of the capital. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆's soul left his body the moment he heard the news. "Why her of all people?" he cried, but nobody cared. Mind just smirked, already plotting ways to make his life hell. Before he could even process his misery, the hideout's alarm went off. Intruders. Some morons had actually tracked down Night Raid's base. Bulat wasted no time. He equipped 𝒂𝐴𝒄𝒆, his legendary armor that could turn invisible and make a man look like a demonic Power Ranger. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆's jaw dropped. He'd heard about Imperial arms, but seeing one in action was a whole different level of insanity. 𝒂𝐴𝒄𝒆 was alive, a sentient suit forged from the materials of the strongest monster in history. Bulat vanished into thin air and started bodying intruders left and right. Meanwhile, 𝒂𝐴𝒄𝒆 found a trio of assassins running their mouths about how they'd slice her to ribbons. She killed 2 of them before they finished their sentence. Their throats opened like envelopes. The third guy thought he'd survived. Then the curse of Murasame, her one-slice kill katana, activated, and he dropped dead on the spot. No antidote, no mercy. One scratch, and you're fertilizer. Mine wasn't about to be outdone. She spotted another assassin fleeing with intel on Night Raid and leveled her colossal pumpkin cannon at him. Before she could fire, an ambush attacker lunged at her from the shadows. But Shield, clumsy, sweet, completely uncoordinated Shield, materialized from nowhere and bisected the guy with her giant scissors. Ecstasy. Mine then vaporized the fleeing rat, erasing him from existence with a single shot. Leone, in her beast form, pummeled another assassin into paste, while 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 wrapped his crosstail threads around a female fighter, offering her a deal. She offered her body in exchange for freedom. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, ever the degenerate, pierced her entire body with his wires instead. 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆 took down his own opponent with a clean chest slash, and when 6 more jumped Bulat, the armored giant turned them into ground meat before they could blink. With all intruders dead, the squad regrouped. Bulat clapped 𝒂𝒨𝒏𝒄𝒆 on the shoulder. You survived. Good. That night, Tatsumi stared at the ceiling and made a vow to his fallen friends. He'd make this rotten world better or die trying. The next morning, Tatsumi's real punishment began. He waited outside Mine's room, and when she finally stumbled out, he learned something terrifying. Mine couldn't wake up on her own. 𝐂𝐨𝐴 had specifically assigned him as her personal alarm clock and general errand boy. Mine, still half asleep, nearly blew his head off with Pumpkin, then branded him progenitor of excitement, whatever that means, and spent the rest of the day making him pay for every imagined slight. Later, they headed into the capital so Tatsumi could learn from her. They ended up confronting two street punks bullying a little refugee girl. Tatsumi sliced their pants off as punishment. Mine knelt beside the trembling child and told her to get stronger so she could protect herself next time. It was the first time Tatsumi saw a glimmer of warmth beneath the tsundere shell. Then they saw the crosses. Public executions, ordered by the child emperor, a puppet whose strings were pulled by Prime Minister Honest, a gluttonous pig of a man who ruled from the shadows. They watched an officer get sentenced to be drawn and quartered by bulls just for speaking against Honest's policies. The man begged the emperor to see the truth, but the boy king only parroted Honest's lies. And as if a death sentence wasn't enough, Honest leaned in and whispered that he'd take care of the man's beautiful wife in every possible way after the execution. The officer screamed for someone, anyone, to bring justice against that demon. Honest just smiled. That night, Night Raid mobilized to kill 𝐂𝐴𝐴, Honest's right-hand man, who used the Prime Minister's name to kidnap women and do unspeakable things. The squad surrounded his mansion. Mine positioned herself at long range, with Tatsumi as her escort. He asked about her weapon. Pumpkin, she explained, was an Imperial Arms, a cannon that grew stronger the more danger its user faced. She aimed it at the mansion. When 𝐂𝐴𝐴 appeared, surrounded by women, Tatsumi wondered how she'd pull off the shot without collateral. Mine didn't hesitate. She blew his head clean off his shoulders. "It's just a regular job for a master sniper," she said, blowing smoke from the barrel. Tatsumi was speechless. With 𝐂𝐴𝐴 dead, his guards scrambled. Night Raid cut down 4 of them instantly. But 𝐂𝐴𝐴 sensed something wrong. There should have been 5. The last guard, a former martial arts instructor, slipped past everyone and ambushed Mine. Tatsumi threw himself in the way, sword clashing. The guard was skilled. He dodged bullets and closed in. Tatsumi grabbed him and screamed at Mine to shoot through them both, trusting her aim. Mine charged Pumpkin to maximum and fired. The blast bored a hole through the guard's chest and completely obliterated Tatsumi's perfect hairstyle. As the guard collapsed, Tatsumi smacked Mine on the head. "Some master sniper you are?" She just smirked. Back at the hideout, 𝐂𝐴𝐴 gathered everyone with grim news. A serial killer was roaming the capital at night, decapitating everyone he met. Lubbock immediately guessed who it was. 𝐂𝐨𝐽, the former executioner at the Empire's largest prison. When Honest came to power, the number of executions skyrocketed, and 𝐂𝐽 spent years beheading prisoners. Somewhere along the way, he developed a taste for it and went completely insane. He stole the warden's Imperial Arms before escaping, a relic that could read minds. Tatsumi immediately wanted to hunt him down, but Bulat warned him that facing an Imperial Arms wielder without one of your own was suicide. That sparked a lecture from 𝐂𝐴𝐴 about the 48 Imperial Arms, created by the first emperor using Calamity-class monster materials and the finest craftsmen in history. Half were lost in a civil war 500 years ago. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 had Murasame, the one-slice killer. Leon had Lionel, turning her into a beast. Mine's Pumpkin fed on danger. Bulat's Incursio was living armor, but it killed anyone unworthy. Lubbock's Crosstail detected enemies and sliced them to ribbons. Shield's Ecstasy could cut anything and double as a shield. And the one unbreakable rule: when 2 Imperial Arms users fought, one was destined to die. That night they went hunting. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 saved Tatsumi from patrols, and as they walked, he asked about Murasame's downside. She admitted that even a tiny cut on her own finger would kill her. No antidote, no exceptions. Carrying that blade meant living on a knife's edge, literally. Meanwhile, 𝐂𝐽 was watching them from a rooftop, licking his lips. He'd already picked his next target. Tatsumi, after sharing a drink with 𝐂𝐴𝐴, went to take a leak in an alley. That's when he saw her. Sayo, his dead friend, alive and smiling. He chased the ghost to an empty lot and embraced her, tears in his eyes. "I thought you were dead." The illusion laughed and shifted. It was 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 using his imperial arms, spectator, to read Tatsumi's mind and transform into the person he most wanted to see. Enraged, Tatsumi drew his sword. But �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 could predict every move. He dodged effortlessly and slashed Tatsumi's gut, then carved up his entire body with a flurry of cuts, cackling as blood sprayed. He wanted Tatsumi to beg, to cry for his friends. The begging was what excited him most. Tatsumi, bleeding out, refused. "I'd rather die than beg a grown-up ugly rat like you." He charged with everything he had, managed to scratch �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's face, but took a deep gash across his back in return. Before �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 could finish him, Akame's blade intercepted. She was calm. "You beat him psychologically. Now let me handle the rest." �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 used spectator to read her mind, but Akame emptied her thoughts. He could still see her future moves, though, and managed to scratch her thigh. Then he played his trump card. He used his relic to conjure an illusion of Kurome, Akame's own sister, hoping she'd hesitate. Akame cut the illusion down without flinching. �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was horrified. "How cold can you be?" She didn't answer. They clashed in a battle of attrition until Akame shattered his assassin blades and slit his throat. As �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 bled out, the voices of everyone he'd executed fell silent for the first time. "Thank you," he whispered, finally free. Akame walked away, expression unreadable. That night, Tatsumi dreamed of his friends. He woke to find 𝒏𝒄𝒆 sleeping beside him. She was his supervisor for the day. She was so clumsy she mistook him for a wooden figure on the table when she lost her glasses. Later, Lubbock questioned Najenda about putting 𝒏𝒄𝒆 in charge of anyone, given her spectacular lack of coordination. She'd burned herself cooking, blown the monthly budget shopping, and once accidentally put mine through the washing machine. But Najenda believed Tatsumi needed someone older, someone gentle. So 𝒏𝒄𝒆 told him her story. She grew up in the industrial district, a clumsy outcast everyone thought had a screw loose. Only one girl ever accepted her. When a drunk attacked that friend, 𝒏𝒄𝒆 slit his throat without hesitation, and felt nothing. The friend never spoke to her again. Later, the drunk's friends murdered 𝒏𝒄𝒆's parents. When they came for her, she killed them all, one by one, without a flicker of emotion. That tragedy made her realize her defect. Her total lack of fear or hesitation made her a perfect assassin. She'd been one ever since. When she finished her story, Bulat emerged from a river, flexing his muscles like a god, and everyone returned to the hideout. Najenda wanted Tatsumi to try �𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's spectator. He put on the glasses and immediately saw every woman in the room without their plot armor. He wanted to treasure that relic forever. Then he collapsed. It drained all his strength. The relic wasn't compatible with him. Since he couldn't use it, they'd ship it to the Revolutionary Army. Akame told Tatsumi that collecting Imperial arms was their second most important mission, right after assassination. When Tatsumi asked about the strongest Imperial arm, Najenda's face darkened. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's ice relic, Demon's Extract, had no rival. She was currently up north, subjugating rebels. A hero named Numa had risen there, never losing a battle, drawing thousands to his side. So the Empire sent their strongest, 𝒏𝒄𝒆 herself, to handle him. Tatsumi, still clinging to hope, asked if any Imperial arm could resurrect the dead. Bulat shot him down instantly. No such thing existed. The boy who'd been fighting with that hope in his heart felt it shatter. Akame told him to abandon his fantasies if he truly wanted to make the world better. That night, Tatsumi sat alone at the edge of a cliff, hollow. 𝒏𝒄𝒆 found him, sat beside him, and pulled him into a hug. It was the first time in his life he felt a woman's embrace. Meanwhile, in the frozen north, 𝒏𝒄𝒆's ice consumed the rebel army. Their leader, the legendary Numa, became her personal footstool, and the Empire's most sadistic general began her march back to the capital, already hungry for new prey. Leone decided it was time for Tatsumi to see where she came from, so she dragged him into the capital's slums, a labyrinth of filth, poverty, and desperation. The moment they stepped in, at least a dozen people started chasing her. Turns out Leone owed money to basically everyone in the neighborhood. Tatsumi got separated in the chaos, and his soul nearly evacuated his body when he realized he had absolutely no clue where he was or how to get back. That's when a woman in an Imperial officer's uniform approached him. Her name was 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐭𝐨, and she had with her an Imperial arms called 𝐂𝐨𝐴, a fluffy little dog that was actually a biological weapon capable of regenerating from any wound and transforming into a nightmare of teeth and muscle. 𝐂𝐨𝐴, ever the helpful officer, gently took Tatsumi's hand and guided him back to the slum entrance. 𝐂𝐴 got jealous. "Master is holding someone's hand," the dog growled, but 𝐂𝐴𝐴 just smiled and told Tatsumi to stay safe before dashing off to hunt criminals, specifically the members of Night Raid. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 wasn't just any officer. She was a disciple of 𝐂𝐴𝐴, the same corrupt captain Tatsumi had butchered. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 had seen the burning determination in her eyes and offered to take her to a doctor who could modify her body into a living weapon. She accepted without hesitation. Now, with reinforced limbs and built-in firearms, she lived for one purpose: to avenge her master by exterminating every last member of Night Raid. She was justice. Absolute, uncompromising, fanatical justice. Tatsumi reunited with Leone, and the two headed to the red light district. Leone transformed into her beast form using Lionel and leaped across rooftops until they reached a building where girls were being drugged and forced into unspeakable acts. One girl, barely conscious, got punched by her captor for not being enthusiastic enough. Leone's eyes narrowed. She knew that girl. They'd grown up together. Tatsumi didn't wait for orders. He stormed the building, cutting down 2 guards with a single swing and gutting a third. Leone was surrounded, but she dodged every strike and crushed her attackers with her bare hands, killing them instantly. Their leader tried to shoot Leone from behind, but Tatsumi bisected him before he could pull the trigger. Leone lifted the last man by his throat and punched a hole through his stomach. Mission complete. As they left, Tatsumi asked about the girls. Leone said a doctor would take care of them. "You organized all of this," Tatsumi said, realizing she wasn't just a killer, she was a protector. "You're a good person, Leone." She smirked, leaned in, and licked his ear. "Don't forget, I have a wicked side too." At the same time, Mine and Shield were returning from a mission, but 𝐂𝐴𝐴 was waiting on their escape route. She confirmed their identities as Night Raid members and declared they would face absolute justice. Mine offered her a chance to walk away. They'd have to kill her otherwise. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 laughed. Walk away? The people who murdered her master were standing right in front of her. Revenge was the only option. Mine fired Pumpkin, but 𝐂𝐴𝐴 transformed from a cute puppy into a horrifying abomination, absorbing the blast with its body. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 opened fire with her arm-mounted guns. Mine and Shield dodged, but 𝐂𝐴𝐴 lunged at them with a mouthful of 1,000 teeth. Shield slashed its face. The creature collapsed, and then regenerated instantly. Mine blasted it back and reminded Shield that living Imperial arms like 𝐂𝐴𝐴 had a core somewhere in their body. Unless they destroyed that core, the thing would keep coming back forever. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 ordered 𝐂𝐴𝐴 to extend its arms and unleash a barrage of punches. Shield blocked as many as she could with her scissors, giving Mine an opening to leap into the air and blast 𝐂𝐴𝐴 to pieces. But she couldn't find the core, and the monster regenerated again. Using the smoke from Mine's shot, Shield closed the distance on 𝐂𝐴𝐴, blinding her with Ecstasy's flash ability. She aimed to cut 𝐂𝐴𝐴 in half, but 𝐂𝐴𝐴 blocked with hidden blades in her arms. When 𝐂𝐴𝐴 tried to intervene, Mine shot it back, buying Shield time to corner 𝐂𝐴𝐴 against a metal fence. 𝐂𝐴𝐴 fled into a forest, but tripped on a rock, and Shield severed both her arms. It should have been over. But 𝐂𝐴𝐴 had guns implanted in her elbows and fired them point blank. Shield blocked the bullets with Ecstasy and cut her arms off again. 𝐂𝐴𝐴, bleeding out, gave 𝐂𝐴𝐴 a final command: Berserker mode. The creature grabbed Mine in its massive hand and began crushing every bone in her body. Shield barely managed to sever the arm before Mine was pulped, but 𝐂𝐴𝐴 had a gun hidden in her mouth and shot Shield through the chest. 𝐂𝐴𝐴, still regenerating, bit Shield in half. Mine, screaming, her arm broken, grabbed Pumpkin and limped towards 𝐂𝐴𝐴. But Imperial police reinforcements had arrived. Shield used the last ounce of strength in her shattered body to flash her scissors, blinding everyone, and screamed at Mine to run. Mine, tears streaming, obeyed her friend's final wish and escaped. As 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐭𝐨 vision faded, sweet memories of her time with Night Raid, cooking disasters, ruined budgets, washing machine accidents played through her mind. She died with a smile. Koro devoured her remains. Seryu, both arms gone, laughed like a maniac. She'd finally killed a Night Raid member. Justice was served. When the news reached the hideout, silence swallowed the room. Tatsumi demanded to know who did it so he could exact revenge. 𝐂𝐨𝐴 ordered him to stand down. He'd just joined 𝐂𝐨𝐴 in the afterlife if he acted without a plan. But Tatsumi kept raging, kept screaming, until Bulat's fist connected with his face. "Stop trying to throw your worthless life away!" Bulat roared. 𝐂𝐨𝐴 then warned everyone, from now on, they'd be facing more Imperial arms wielders. They needed to prepare. Meanwhile, General 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 had returned from the north after annihilating the rebel army. Honest was thrilled. As long as she existed, no one would dare challenge the Emperor's rule. The Emperor offered her riches. He offered her titles. Then he asked what she truly wanted as a reward. 𝐂𝐴𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆's answer? She wanted to experience love. The Emperor suggested she marry Honest. She flatly refused. Honest had high blood pressure and could drop dead any moment. With that option gone, 𝐂𝐴𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 admitted she had very specific requirements for a partner and agreed to list them all. Somewhere in the capital, Tatsumi sneezed, completely unaware that a sadistic ice goddess was about to write his job description. A few days later, Min was still struggling to eat with her broken arm. Akame fed her silently. Tatsumi noticed Akame was unusually quiet, even for her, and began to understand the weight of being an assassin. Late that night, he found her cooking 𝐂𝐨𝐴's favorite dish as a memorial. "You're incredible," he said. "How can you stay so composed after losing a friend?" Akame didn't answer at first. Then she grabbed him, her body trembling, tears finally falling. "I'll never get used to it. Losing someone precious. It never stops hurting." Tatsumi realized he'd been blind to her pain. He apologized, swore to stay alive, and promised they'd build a new era where no one had to grieve like this. Akame just held on tighter. The next day, Tatsumi threw himself into training with Akame. After a few exchanges, she landed a clean shot to his ribs and told him to rest. He refused. "Treat it like a real battle," he demanded. Bulat appeared from nowhere and punched him in the face. "In a real battle, you always watch your surroundings." Seeing Tatsumi's unbreakable determination to protect everyone, Bulat agreed to train him seriously, and the two began sparring with wooden staves. Watching them, Akame smiled. A tiny, rare, genuine smile. At the same time, three figures were butchering a government official and his daughter. They were the three beasts, 𝐂𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆's personal attack dogs. Deidara bisected a dozen guards with a single swing and gravely wounded the girl. Niao skinned the old man alive. Liver presented himself to the official and beheaded him without a word. Then they scattered flyers with Night Raid symbol all over the crime scene, framing the assassins for the slaughter. 𝐂𝐴𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 gathered the squad. 𝐂𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 was back, and her three beasts were targeting politicians who supported the Revolutionary Army. They couldn't afford to lose more allies. She assigned Bulat and Tatsumi to protect a politician aboard a massive cruise ship, while 𝐿𝒏𝒄 and Akame were sent north. Tatsumi, dressed in formal wear, looked around the crowded ship and thought there was no way anyone could assassinate the target in such a public space. Bulat smacked his head. "Never underestimate the enemy." Tatsumi marveled at 𝐂𝐴𝐴𝒃. Without it, they never would have gotten aboard undetected. The armor was like a partner to Bulat, but even with all its power, it hadn't been enough to save his general years ago. That general had refused to bribe Honest, so Honest declared him a traitor. Bulat, loyal to his commander, was branded a traitor too, and only 𝐂𝐴𝐴𝒃's invisibility let him escape. Now the armor's power was running low and he'd have to deactivate it. Tatsumi told him to rest. He'd handle the upper deck. In the capital, Leon spotted 𝐂𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 walking alone. A perfect shot. But every instinct screamed trap. The air around 𝐂𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 was wrong, suffocating, soaked in bloodlust. Leon backed off. 𝐂𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 sighed, genuinely disappointed. She'd wanted Leon to attack, so she could capture and torture her. On the cruise ship, 𝐂𝐨𝐴 played his flute. The music spread across the deck, and everyone collapsed into magically induced sleep. Tatsumi fought to stay conscious. Deidara appeared, tossed him a sword, and smiled. He wanted a fair fight. Tatsumi swung. Deidara split his axe in two and hurled both halves like boomerangs, one of them slicing Tatsumi's stomach on the return. Tatsumi charged blindly, but Bulat yanked him back. "Idiot! You're falling for his trap!" Deidara was impressed. Bulat had stabbed his own leg to stay awake through 𝐂𝐴's music. 𝐂𝐭𝐴 materialized around Bulat, and in a single second, he swatted 𝐂𝐴 away and cut Deidara clean in half. "Always be aware of your surroundings," he reminded Tatsumi, who stood frozen in awe. Then Liver stepped forward. The moment their eyes met, Bulat recognized him. Liver had been his old mentor, once imprisoned by the Empire. 𝐭𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 had freed him, and now he served her without question. Bulat's heart ached. If they'd been on the same side, he'd have loved to share a drink. Liver activated his imperial arms, Black Marlin, summoning massive pillars of water. He could manipulate any liquid within his range. On a ship surrounded by ocean, he had a nearly infinite advantage. Bulat spun his spear to deflect a water cannon, but Liver was already creating a serpent of water. Bulat dove into its mouth to split it from the inside. Exactly as Liver predicted. While Bulat was airborne, a second water cannon slammed into him. His faceplate cracked. "That's not enough to beat me," Bulat growled. Liver knew. He summoned a swarm of serpents. Bulat survived them all and launched himself at Liver from the sky. 𝐂𝐴 jumped in the way and took the hit. Tatsumi had been beaten bloody, apologizing for being useless, and then 𝐂𝐭𝐴 deactivated from the damage. "Surviving this long is already good enough," Bulat told him. Liver's body was breaking down too. Black Marlin had pushed him past his limits. Still clinging to the bond they'd once shared, Liver asked Bulat to join 𝐭𝐴𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's army. Bulat refused. His mission was to protect the innocent, and under Honest's empire, that was impossible. Liver injected himself with a performance-enhancing drug and charged. Their blades clashed at blinding speed. Tatsumi could barely follow. Bulat shattered Liver's sword and drove his spear home. But Liver used his own blood as a final attack, tiny crimson blades shooting from his body. Bulat blocked most, but some pierced through. Liver collapsed, shocked that Bulat had survived. Before dying, he whispered the truth. 𝐭𝐴𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 had approached him in prison, offered him a place, and he'd accepted because she was the only reason Honest stayed in power. He'd served her like a god. Then he revealed he'd poisoned Bulat with the drug. His mission was complete. Bulat coughed blood. Tatsumi rushed to him, but Bulat pointed at 𝐂𝐴, still alive, playing his flute. He could transform into Bulat's fallen general, weakening Tatsumi's resolve. Bulat knew Tatsumi couldn't beat 𝐂𝐴 alone, but he had one last gift. He pressed 𝐂𝐭𝐴's key into Tatsumi's hand. "This armor puts immense strain on its user. Most people die just trying to wear it." Tatsumi hesitated. Bulat punched him. "You're more than qualified." 𝐂𝐴 charged, desperate to kill Tatsumi before he could equip the relic. The key glowed. The armor shifted, reshaping itself for Tatsumi's body. Bulat explained that 𝐂𝐭𝐴 was forged from the materials of the strongest monster in history, and it was still alive inside the key. Tatsumi felt power erupting through every cell. 𝐂𝐴 lunged. Tatsumi met him with a single punch that obliterated his entire body against the ship's hull. With his last breath, Bulat told Tatsumi to keep moving forward. Then he was gone. Tatsumi knelt beside his mentor's body, screaming, crying, promising to become stronger. The boy who'd once been a country bumpkin was now the inheritor of a living demon's armor. And the weight of that legacy would either make him or break him. Tatsumi wasn't the same boy who'd wandered into the capital with empty pockets and a head full of dreams. He was now the wielder of 𝐂𝐭𝐴, the living armor that had belonged to Bulat, his mentor, his friend, the man who'd punched him when he was being an idiot and hugged him when he was broken. And he'd inherited more than just the armor. He'd inherited Bulat's will, his mission, and the crushing responsibility of being a Night Raider. In the Northern Territories, General 𝐂𝐴𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was finishing her campaign with the kind of efficiency that made demons nervous. She didn't just defeat the rebel army, she exterminated them. Her ice magic, granted by the demon's extract she'd consumed, froze entire battalions solid. The rebels' legendary leader, Numa, a man who'd never lost a battle, became her personal footstool. Literally. She used him as a step to mount her horse. When the Empire's reinforcements finally arrived, they found a frozen wasteland littered with ice sculptures that used to be soldiers. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 stood in the center, completely bored, wondering if there was anyone in the world who could give her a real fight. Or a real date. She was surprisingly flexible about which came first. Back at the capital, Prime Minister Honest was practically drooling. With 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 back, his grip on power was absolute. The child emperor was his puppet, the military was his fist, and anyone who disagreed ended up on a cross or in a shallow grave. When 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 requested a reward for her northern campaign, the emperor offered her gold land titles, and she turned them all down flat. She wanted something simpler, something more primal. She wanted to fall in love. The emperor's advisors nearly choked. Honest, ever the problem solver, immediately suggested himself. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 didn't even blink. "You have high blood pressure. You could die at any moment. I'll pass." With that option mercifully off the table, 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 produced a list of requirements for her ideal partner. They included, among other things, a brave warrior, someone who would never beg for mercy, a person who could smile even in the face of death, and, most importantly, someone younger than her who could be molded. Honest read the list and laughed. "You're looking for a unicorn." 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 just smiled. She'd already decided she'd find her unicorn, and when she did, she'd never let him go. Meanwhile, Night Raid was licking its wounds. Shield was dead. Bulat was dead. The hideout felt emptier, quieter, heavier. Mine's arm was still in a sling. 𝐂𝐨𝒄𝒊𝒆 was quieter than usual, which was saying something. Tatsumi threw himself into training with a ferocity that bordered on self-destruction. Leon and Lubbock dragged him back from the brink more than once, but Najenda had news that cut through the grief. The Revolutionary Army was sending reinforcements. 2 new members, and one of them was an Imperial arms wielder. The first arrival was Chelsea, a woman with flaming red hair, a perpetual lollipop in her mouth, and a personality that could best be described as chaotic menace. Her Imperial arms, Gaia Foundation, allowed her to perfectly transform into anyone. Appearance, voice, mannerisms, everything. She was an infiltration specialist, an assassin who could walk right past 100 guards and they'd wave hello to a familiar face. Within 5 minutes of arriving, she'd already stolen Mine's dessert, pranked Lubbock, and somehow convinced 𝐂𝐴ME to let her style her hair. "I'm surrounded by idiots," Mine muttered, but there was a ghost of a smile on her face. The second arrival was Susanoo, and he was different. He wasn't a person. He was an Imperial arms, a living, breathing humanoid relic given to Najenda by the Revolutionary Army. Susanoo could cook, clean, fight, build a house in minutes, and do literally anything his master commanded. He was also completely unflappable, immune to Chelsea's teasing, and had an unsettling habit of fixing everyone's disheveled clothing without being asked. When Tatsumi tried to shake his hand, Susanoo calmly informed him that his zipper was down and his shirt was untucked. "I fixed it for you," he added, completely deadpan. Tatsumi wanted to die. Chelsea cackled. Mine face-palmed. 𝐂𝐴ME tilted her head and asked if exposed zippers were a fashion statement now. "I noticed earlier," she admitted, "but I thought it was intentional." Tatsumi screamed into a pillow. With the team reinforced, Najenda relocated the hideout to the Marred Highlands, a remote area teeming with monsters and completely uninhabited by humans. Perfect for laying low. They'd need to train hard. The Empire was mobilizing, and 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was forming a new elite unit. She called them the Jaegers because she was a fan of Attack on Titan. No, seriously, the woman had taste in literature despite being a walking war crime. Her recruitment process was simple. Be strong, be useful, or be dead. The first recruit was Wave, a fisherman's son from a coastal village who'd somehow stumbled into wielding Grand Chariot, an armor-type Imperial arms similar to 𝐂𝐴ME. He was earnest, kind-hearted, and completely out of his depth. The second was Kurome, 𝐂𝐴ME's twin sister, a girl who processed trauma through obsessive snacking, and had a habit of puppeteering the corpses of her enemies with her sword, Yatsufusa. She was quiet, deadly, and ate candy like it was a competitive sport. The third was Run, a calm, analytical strategist with a feathered cloak that let him fly. The fourth was 𝐂𝐨𝐴, because of course 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 would recruit the fanatical justice-obsessed psycho with gun arms. The fifth was 𝐂𝐨𝒄𝒊𝒆, a massive masked man with a flamethrower and the gentlest soul in the unit. He was happily married with a young daughter, and he burned people alive because the Empire ordered him to. The sixth was Dr. Stylish, a flamboyant mad scientist with a fetish for body modification and a personal army of mind-controlled servants. And the seventh was the unit's leader, 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 herself, who kicked 𝐂𝐴 in the face the moment she walked in to evaluate their reflexes. 𝐂𝐴, lying on the floor and questioning every life choice that had led him here, watched as the Ice Queen surveyed her new pack. "You'll do," she said, and for 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, that was practically a warm embrace. Tatsumi and Lubbock were sent into the capital on a reconnaissance mission. The plan was simple. Gather intel on the Jaegers, keep a low profile, and don't do anything stupid. So naturally, Tatsumi ended up in a fighting tournament sponsored by 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 herself. Because nothing says low profile like punching people in front of the Empire's deadliest general. The tournament was a bloodbath. Fighters of all shapes and sizes beat each other senseless for the grand prize. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 watched from her throne, bored out of her mind until Tatsumi stepped into the ring. His opponent was a human bull, a monstrous fighter who tried to crush him with a single punch. Tatsumi dodged, launched himself into the air, and kicked the beast so hard it staggered. They traded blows until Tatsumi delivered a rapid-fire combo of punches that pulverized the bull's internal organs. The crowd erupted. Tatsumi smiled, that same innocent post-victory smile he always wore, and 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's cold, dead heart did something it hadn't done in years. It skipped a beat. She was in love. Before Tatsumi could process what was happening, 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 descended into the arena like a glacier with legs. "Magnificent," she purred. "As a reward for your efforts, I shall make you my slave." And just like that, she snapped a metal collar around his neck. Tatsumi tried to resist. She knocked him unconscious with a single chop. Lubbock and Leon watched in horror from the crowd. The Ice Queen had just kidnapped their rookie. Back at the hideout, chaos erupted. Mine wanted to storm the palace immediately. 𝐂𝐴𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 agreed but insisted they needed a plan. Tatsumi wasn't just a prisoner, he was the personal obsession of the strongest woman in the Empire. One wrong move, and he'd be an ice sculpture. Meanwhile, Tatsumi woke up in 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's private chambers. She had changed into something far less armored and far more plot-relevant. She offered him a choice. Serve her willingly, and she'd protect him from everything. Refuse, and she'd torture him until he changed his mind. Tatsumi, ever the stubborn idiot, refused. He told her he hated the Empire, that he wanted to join the revolutionary army and tear down the corruption that was strangling the innocent. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 listened. Then she slapped him. Then she licked his face. "Stay focused, brothers," Tatsumi internally screamed, but outwardly he held his ground. "I could never love someone like you," he said. "Change your principles if you really care about me." 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was delighted. The more he resisted, the more she wanted him. She'd never met a man who stood up to her like this. It was the most fun she'd had in years. She refused to change, of course. She believed in the survival of the fittest, and the weak existed only to be trampled. But she made a decision. She would make Tatsumi fall in love with her no matter what it took. That night, she held him like a body pillow. Tatsumi didn't sleep a second. The next morning, 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 introduced Tatsumi to the Jaegers as her new companion. 𝐂𝐴, the earnest fisherman, immediately sympathized with him. 𝐂𝒆 offered cooking tips. 𝐂𝐴 stared at him like he was a potential snack. She reminded him so much of 𝐂𝐴𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 it was unsettling. When Tatsumi mentioned the resemblance, 𝐂𝐴's eyes lit up. 𝐂𝐴𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was her older sister, and she desperately wanted to kill her for betraying the Empire. Run, the strategist, studied Tatsumi with quiet calculation. 𝐂𝐴 glared at him with barely concealed suspicion. This was the unit Tatsumi was trapped in, a mix of broken souls, fanatics, and killers. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 soon deployed the Jaegers on a mission to eliminate a rebel stronghold. Tatsumi was forced to watch as they demonstrated their horrifying efficiency. 𝐂𝐴 used 𝐂𝐴 to equip a massive drill on her metal arm, turning soldiers into ground meat. Then she equipped a cannon and blew open the castle gates. 𝐂𝐨𝐴 assassinated every guard at the entrance. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 cut down a sniper who was about to shoot 𝐂𝐨𝐴. 𝐵𝒚𝒄𝒊𝒆 incinerated the remaining soldiers with his flamethrower, and Run picked off anyone trying to flee. Within minutes, the castle fell. Tatsumi was stunned by their power. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 sidled up to him and offered to train him personally. She was surprisingly gentle, her cold demeanor melting whenever she looked at him. Tatsumi saw a terrifying opportunity. If he could convince her to switch sides, the revolution would be unstoppable. But deep down, he knew that was a fantasy. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 wasn't a victim of the empire. She was its greatest weapon, forged by her own twisted philosophy. That night in the captured castle, Tatsumi sat on his bed, plotting his escape. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 emerged from the bath with minimal coverage, and Tatsumi's brain short-circuited. She asked if he found her attractive. He stammered. She kissed him and said she'd never done that with anyone else. Seizing the moment, Tatsumi made his pitch. Join the revolutionary army, fight for the innocent, create a world where people didn't live in fear. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 listened. Then she slapped him again. "You're cute when you're angry," she said. She would never change. But she would never let him go either. Tatsumi realized he was dealing with a woman who loved like a predator, fierce, possessive, and completely insane. He excused himself to take a bath. She warned him, if he tried to escape, she'd kill him. Days passed. 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 clung to him every night like a human teddy bear. Tatsumi learned more about the Jaegers. 𝐵𝒚𝒄𝒊𝒆 had a wife and child he adored, yet he burned people alive on command. 𝐂𝐴 was addicted to candy and murder, a broken mirror of 𝐂𝐴. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was a decent guy trapped in a nightmare. 𝐶𝒏𝒄𝒆 was a fanatic who saw the world in black and white. Run was an enigma. And 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆? She was a sadistic ice queen who'd drunk the demon's extract and become one with its power, because she was already so far gone that the voices in the extract telling her to slaughter everything just sounded like her own thoughts. Then came the mission Tatsumi had been waiting for. The Jaegers were deployed to hunt monsters in a remote forest. This was his chance. In the chaos of battle against tree-like creatures, Tatsumi broke away and activated 𝐂𝐴𝒄𝒊𝒆. He ran. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, who'd been assigned to watch him, immediately gave chase. Grand Chariot! 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆's armor materialized. It was an imperial arms similar to 𝐂𝐿𝒄𝒆, a prototype for the very armor Tatsumi wore. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 caught up and tackled Tatsumi into a river. "I don't want to fight you!" Tatsumi shouted. "Then come back!" 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 pleaded. Tatsumi refused. They clashed. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆's punch sent Tatsumi crashing into a rock wall. Tatsumi tried to escape again, but 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 kicked him out of the air and sent him plunging into the water. Tatsumi went invisible, hiding at the bottom of the river, waiting. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆, thinking he'd fled downstream, chased the current, but Tatsumi was too injured to move. A Class S monster emerged from the forest and loomed over him. Before it could strike, 𝐂𝐴's blade split its face. Lubbock was right behind her, ready to carry Tatsumi to safety. "I'm sorry," Tatsumi gasped. "You all worked so hard to rescue me." 𝐂𝐴 smacked his head. "It's the least we could do." Back at the Jaeger camp, 𝐿𝒏𝒄𝒆 was not pleased. 𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒆 had let Tatsumi escape, and he'd failed to capture a night raid member. She informed him that next time, she'd personally drag him to her torture chamber. Then she turned to the assembled Jaegers. "If Tatsumi resurfaces as an enemy," she said, her voice cold and sharp, "capture him alive if possible. But if not, kill him." She smiled. It was the scariest smile any of them had ever seen. Tatsumi returned to the hideout and briefed everyone on the Jaegers, their powers, their personalities, their weaknesses. Mine hugged him. Leone ruffled his hair. 𝐂𝐴 just nodded, but her eyes were softer than usual. The team was whole again, but their location was compromised. Dr. Stylish, the flamboyant mad scientist, had tracked Tatsumi's scent using one of his grotesque minions, and he was coming with an army. The attack came at dawn. Lubbock's crosstail detected the intruders first. He tried to warn everyone, but a twisted, inhuman figure blocked his path. Lubbock strangled it with his wires, but the creature twisted its own neck around and kept attacking. Lubbock blocked it, then pierced its heart with a thread spear. One down. Then a dozen more fanatical servants appeared. Stylish's mind-controlled soldiers, modified with body parts and conditioned to worship him. 𝐂𝐨𝐿 cut through them like a scythe through wheat. Tatsumi faced Kaku, a hulking brute who had stolen Shiel's ecstasy. Enraged, Tatsumi attacked, but Kaku broke his sword and slashed his arm with the giant scissors. "You don't deserve that weapon," Tatsumi snarled. Mine appeared and vaporized Kaku with pumpkin, reclaiming Shiel's relic. She held ecstasy in her arms, tears streaming down her face. Susanoo made his entrance, cutting down waves of Stylish's servants. 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐭𝐨 had already infiltrated the enemy ranks in disguise. Together, they pushed the attackers back. Stylish, seeing his army decimated, injected himself with a Class S monster extract. His body swelled into a grotesque, multi-limbed abomination. He devoured his own surviving servants to fuel his transformation and grew even larger. Susanoo attacked, but Stylish swatted him aside. Tatsumi and 𝐂𝐨𝐿 coordinated. Tatsumi ran across the monster's body while 𝐂𝐨𝐿 rode his momentum, launching herself at Stylish's real body embedded in the creature's chest. Her blade pierced him. "One slice," she whispered. The curse of Murasame activated, and Stylish died screaming. His body dissolved, the monster collapsed, and silence fell over the battlefield. Night Raid had won, but their hideout was destroyed. 𝐵𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 made the call. They'd relocate to the Marg Highlands, a remote area crawling with monsters where no human would dare follow. As they packed up, Tatsumi looked at his teammates, bruised, exhausted, but alive. He'd been captured, enslaved, rescued, and had helped kill one of the Empire's deadliest scientists. And somewhere out there, 𝐵𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 was waiting for him, her obsession burning colder than any ice. Marg Highlands was the kind of place that made you understand why nobody lived there. Jagged peaks, monster-infested forests, and winds that howled like dying wolves. Perfect for a hideout, terrible for literally everything else. Susanoo built a house in about 5 minutes, because he was an Imperial Arms who could do literally anything except tolerate 𝐂𝐿𝐴's pranks. The new base had training grounds, living quarters, and a hot spring that became the unofficial therapist's office for the entire squad. Tatsumi trained under waterfalls, shattering boulders with his fists, while Susanoo lectured him about finding the weak point in everything. "Even the strongest armor has a crack," the stoic warrior explained, demolishing another boulder with minimal effort. Tatsumi absorbed every lesson, like a sponge. Bulat's voice echoed in his head. "Always be aware of your surroundings." He would not let his mentor down. 𝐂𝐿𝐴, meanwhile, was busy making enemies. She stole Mine's sweets, disguised herself as Leon to prank 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, and somehow convinced 𝐂𝐴𝐿 that eating candy together was bonding time. Her Imperial Arms, Gaia Foundation, let her transform into anyone. Voice, face, mannerisms, everything. She could walk through a crowd of enemies, and they'd wave hello to a familiar friend. It was the ultimate infiltration tool. But 𝐂𝐿𝐴 had a sharp tongue and zero filter. When 𝐵𝒄𝒊𝒆 asked her honest opinion of the team, she said they were strong but soft. Their compassion would get them killed one day. Mine, overhearing this, immediately recruited Tatsumi and 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 for a revenge plot involving a bucket of water while 𝐂𝐿𝐴 bathed. Tatsumi, invisible in 𝑖ncursio, crept toward the hot spring and found Susanoo instead. The Imperial Arms could sense him even invisible. "Strong opponents can detect your presence when you move," Susanoo explained, then transformed into 𝐂𝐿𝐴. "It was me the whole time." Tatsumi nearly had a heart attack. 𝐂𝐿𝐴 smirked and warned him. If he ever tried to peep again, she'd permanently delete his baby-making privileges. Tatsumi decided spying was not worth the risk. News from the capital was grim. The Empire's corruption was spreading like rot. Honest's paranoia had led to mass executions, and the Jaegers were hunting revolutionaries with brutal efficiency. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 informed the squad that they needed intel on the Jaegers' movements and weaknesses. 𝐂𝐿𝐴 volunteered without hesitation. Infiltration was her specialty. She'd slip into the capital, gather information, and if the opportunity arose, eliminate a target or two. Tatsumi argued against sending her alone, but 𝐂𝐿𝐴 just flicked his forehead. "I work better solo, kid. Don't worry, I'll be back before you know it." She was gone for days. The hideout felt hollow without her constant pranks and lollipop wrappers scattered everywhere. Then one evening, a badly wounded messenger hawk arrived with a coded message. 𝐂𝐨𝐧 had completed her primary mission, detailed intel on the Jaegers, their patrol routes, their weaknesses, but she'd stayed behind to attempt an assassination on 𝐂𝐨𝐴, 𝐂𝐴ME's sister, the girl with the corpse puppet sword. 𝐂𝐨𝐧 had gotten close enough to strike, but 𝐂𝐴ME's senses were inhuman. She'd detected the poisoned needle centimeters from her neck and countered with Yatsufusa, summoning her undead puppets. 𝐂𝐨𝐧 had fought desperately, transforming again and again. But she was an infiltrator, not a frontline fighter. 𝐂𝐴ME's puppets cornered her in an alley. The last thing 𝐂𝐨𝐧 saw was the blade descending. The last thing she thought was that she'd finally found people worth dying for. When the news reached Marg Highlands, the silence was deafening. Mine locked herself in her room. Tatsumi punched a tree so hard it snapped in half. 𝐂𝐴ME showed no emotion, which was the most terrifying reaction of all. Najenda read 𝐂𝐨𝐧's final report aloud. It contained everything they needed to cripple the Jaegers. She completed her mission, Najenda said, her voice steady, but her one eye glistening. Don't let her sacrifice be in vain. That night, Tatsumi found 𝐂𝐴ME sitting alone, staring at her reflection in Murasame's blade. 𝐂𝐴ME is my sister, she whispered. I was supposed to protect her. Instead, I left her behind. And now she's become this. Tatsumi sat beside her. He didn't speak. He just stayed there, letting her know she wasn't alone. After a long while, 𝐂𝐴ME spoke again. When the time comes, I'll be the one to stop her. It's the only way to atone. The revolution was accelerating. Honest, feeling the noose tighten, recalled 𝐂𝐨𝐧 and the Jaegers to the capital. He had a plan to crush the revolutionary army once and for all, but Night Raid had 𝐂𝐨𝐧's intel now. They knew the enemy's movements, they knew their weaknesses, and they were done playing defense. Tatsumi stood before the squad, 𝐂𝐴ME gleaming, his voice steady. Bulat, shield, 𝐂𝐨𝐧, they gave everything so we could fight. We're going to end this. For them. For everyone the Empire has crushed. Najenda nodded. It's time to take the battle to the capital. The final operation begins now. The revolutionary army marched on the capital with fire in their hearts and steel in their hands. After years of hiding in shadows, licking wounds, burying friends, the time had finally come to tear down the corrupt empire that had bled the people dry. Night Raid led the charge. Tatsumi, 𝐂𝐴ME fully awakened, and evolving with every battle, was at the vanguard. No longer the clueless country boy who'd been scammed out of his pocket change. He was a demon in human skin, and the Empire's soldiers learned to fear the living armor that screamed across the battlefield. The Jaegers stood as the Empire's last line of defense. 𝐴𝐴ME, still wrestling with his conscience, faced Tatsumi with grand chariot blazing. They'd once shared meals and awkward conversations during Tatsumi's captivity, and neither wanted this fight. Join us, Tatsumi pleaded, blocking 𝐴𝐴ME's punch. You know the Empire is rotten. 𝐴𝐴ME's fist trembled. I know, he admitted, but the people I care about are here. I can't abandon them. They clashed, armor against armor, each blow sending shockwaves through the crumbling streets. In the end, Tatsumi shattered Grand Chariot's core with a single, devastating strike. 𝐴𝐴ME collapsed, alive but defeated. Run, Tatsumi told him. Find a reason to fight that doesn't involve dying for a tyrant. 𝐴𝐴ME wept. For the first time, someone had given him permission to choose. Bowles, the gentle giant with the flamethrower and the hidden family, met his end not with a scream, but with a whisper. 𝐂𝐨𝐧's intel had revealed his patrol routes and his fatal weakness, his humanity. He'd spent his life burning people alive on the Empire's orders, carrying that guilt like a stone around his neck. When the revolutionaries cornered him, he fought, but his heart wasn't in it. The flames sputtered, the mask cracked, and the man who just wanted to go home to his wife and daughter fell, whispering their names. War doesn't care about gentle souls. It grinds them all to dust. Run! The strategist with the feathered cloak was taken down by Mine's pumpkin at maximum output. The tsundere sniper who'd once mocked Tatsumi for being a kitchen knife-wielding woman had become one of the deadliest fighters in the revolution. She stood over Run's body, breathing hard, her broken arm long since healed, but the memory of Shield's sacrifice still burning in her chest. "This is for the clumsy angel you people took from us," she whispered, and moved on. 𝐂𝐨𝐵 and 𝐂𝐴𝐾𝐵 faced each other in a ruined cathedral, the stained glass shattered, the pews splintered. Two sisters identical in face but separated by a lifetime of trauma. 𝐂𝐨𝐵's Yatsufusa summoned her undead puppets, fallen Jaegers, soldiers, civilians, all enslaved to her will. 𝐂𝐴𝐵's Murasame gleamed, the one-slice killer that had ended so many lives. "I'm sorry," 𝐂𝐴𝐵 said, her voice barely audible. "I should never have left you behind." 𝐂𝐨𝐵's eyes, dull from the drugs the Empire had pumped into her since childhood, flickered with something. Grief, rage, longing. "You're a traitor!" she spat, but her hands shook. They clashed, blade against blade, sister against sister. The battle was brutal, swift, and merciful. 𝐂𝐴𝐵 found the opening and struck, but she didn't use Murasame's curse. She severed the nerves in 𝐂𝐨𝐵's sword arm without killing her. 𝐂𝐨𝐵 collapsed, screaming, crying, finally breaking. "Why won't you just kill me?" 𝐂𝐴𝐵 knelt beside her sister and pulled her into an embrace. "Because I'm never leaving you again." It would take years for 𝐂𝐨𝐵 to recover, if she ever truly could. But she was alive. And for the first time, 𝐂𝐴𝐵 allowed herself to cry. Tatsumi pushed deeper into the palace. Honest had barricaded himself in the throne room, the child emperor trembling beside him. The prime minister, bloated and sweating, tried to bargain. "I'll give you anything. Gold, land, women." Tatsumi's sword answered before his words could. The blade carved through Honest's defenses and into his corrupt heart. The man who'd orchestrated countless deaths, who'd manipulated a child into becoming a tyrant, who'd treated human lives as currency, died choking on his own blood, confused and terrified. The child emperor, freed from Honest's influence, stared at the body with wide, uncomprehending eyes. There would be a reckoning for him too, but that was for the people to decide. Tatsumi was done here, but the final battle wasn't over. 𝐿𝐴𝐵 waited for him in the frozen courtyard. She turned the entire area into a winter wasteland, ice crystals hanging in the air like suspended tears. She smiled when she saw him. That same smile she'd worn when she first collared him, when she kissed him, when she held him like a body pillow. "I knew you'd come," she said. "You're the only one who can give me what I want." Tatsumi readied in 𝐂𝐨𝐵. "I'm not here to give you anything, 𝐿𝐴𝐵. I'm here to end this." The battle that followed shattered the palace. 𝐿𝐴𝐵 summoned glaciers from the sky, froze the air itself, created spears of ice that rained down like apocalyptic hail. Tatsumi's in 𝐂𝐨𝐵 evolved mid-combat, sprouting wings, adapting to the cold. He was no longer just wearing the armor. He was becoming one with it, the living relic fusing with his flesh and soul. "I loved you!" 𝐿𝐴𝐵 shouted over the roar of clashing elements. "I still do. Join me. We could rule this world together. No one could stop us." Tatsumi met her eyes. "You love the idea of me. The me who fights back. The me who won't submit. But you don't understand love at all. Love isn't about owning someone. It's about letting them be free." 𝐿𝐴𝐵's smile flickered. For the first time in her life, something pierced her ice-cold heart that wasn't a blade. They collided in a final apocalyptic clash. In 𝐂𝐨𝐵's spear met 𝐿𝐴𝐵's ice blade. The shockwave leveled what remained of the palace. When the dust settled, Tatsumi stood over 𝐿𝐴𝐵's fallen form. She was still smiling, even as the light faded from her eyes. "This is what I wanted," she whispered. "A battle to the death, with the only man I ever loved." She reached up, her fingers brushing his cheek, and then she was gone. The ice around them began to melt. Tatsumi fell to his knees, in 𝐂𝐨𝐵's strain finally overwhelming his body. He'd won. But the cost was carved into every scar on his skin. The war was over. The capital lay in ruins, smoke rising from the shattered palace where 𝐿𝐴𝐵's ice had melted into rivers that ran pink with blood. The Revolutionary Army planted their flag in the heart of the city, and the people, for the first time in decades, dared to hope. But for Night Raid, victory was a bitter draft. Too many graves marked the path to this moment. Too many voices would never laugh again around the campfire. Tatsumi lay on a cot in a makeshift medical tent, 𝐂𝐭𝐴 still fused to his body. The armor had evolved beyond control during his battle with 𝐂𝐨𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, its living nature bonding with his flesh, his bones, his very soul. He was no longer a boy wearing a relic. He was becoming the relic itself. His body was covered in iridescent scales. His eyes held a dragon's predatory gleam, and his strength was slowly consuming his humanity. The doctors said the transformation was irreversible. He would either fully merge with the armor or perish as his body rejected the fusion. Mine sat beside him, her tiny hand gripping his scaled fingers, her tsundere shell completely shattered on the floor. "You absolute idiot," she whispered, tears dripping onto his arm. "You promised you'd come back. You said you'd stay alive." Tatsumi's voice was a rasp, but his smile, that same stupid earnest smile, was still there. "I did come back, just with a few upgrades." Mine punched him weakly on the chest. "That's not funny, you overgrown lizard." 𝐂𝐴 stood at the edge of the tent, watching her comrades through the canvas flap. Kurome was recovering in a separate facility, the Empire's drugs slowly leaving her system. It would take years, maybe a lifetime, for her mind to fully heal. But for the first time since they were children torn apart by the Empire's cruelty, she was free. And 𝐂𝐴 was finally permitted to be her sister, not her enemy. She had carried Murasame for so long, the cursed blade that killed with a single scratch. Now she allowed herself to set it down, if only for a moment. "I'll find a way to cure you completely," she had promised Kurome, "no matter how long it takes." Leone had survived the revolution but carried new scars, a deep gash across her back from a fight with a dozen Imperial guards. She shrugged it off. "Scars are just proof you live, baby." She was already planning to return to the slums, to the people she'd grown up with, to make sure the new government actually delivered on its promises. Someone had to keep the bureaucrats honest, and Leone's fists were very persuasive. Lubbock had lost an eye in the final assault when a dying soldier got off a lucky shot. He wore a black eye patch now and claimed it doubled his chances with women. "Chicks dig eye patches," he insisted, and nobody had the heart to disagree. In truth, he'd already set his sights on 𝐵𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, as he had since the day he first saw her in the Imperial Army. Some things never changed. 𝐵𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 herself, her remaining eye fixed on the horizon, was already deep in negotiations with the Revolutionary Army's leadership. A new government was being formed. A council of representatives from every province, elected by the people, not appointed by birth or bought with bribes. The child emperor, now a teenager freed from Honest's manipulation, had abdicated the throne publicly, tearfully apologizing for the atrocities committed in his name. Whether the people would forgive him was a question for another day. For now, the machinery of a new nation was grinding into motion. The price of victory was written in the empty chairs around their campfire. Bulat, who had taught Tatsumi what it meant to be a warrior. Shiel, the clumsy angel who couldn't fold laundry but could bisect a man without blinking. Chelsea, the sharp-tongued spy who'd walked alone into the lion's den and never walked out. And soon, perhaps, Tatsumi. The doctors had delivered their final verdict. His condition was deteriorating. The only way to survive was to fully embrace the fusion, to abandon his human form and become one with 𝐂𝐭𝐴 permanently. He would live, but he would no longer be human. Tatsumi made his choice without hesitation. "If I can protect people like this, then I'll become whatever I have to become. Bulat didn't give me this armor so I could die young." Mine refused to leave his side. "If you're going to be a dragon," she declared, arms crossed, "then I'm going to be the one who rides you into battle. Don't even try to argue with me." Tatsumi laughed, a genuine belly-deep laugh, and for a moment, he looked exactly like the boy who'd wandered into the capital with empty pockets and a head full of dreams. Months passed. The new government stabilized. Roads were rebuilt. Trade resumed. The Empire's network of informants and secret police was dismantled. Night Raid was officially disbanded. Their work was complete. Most of its members faded into legend, their names whispered by the people they'd saved. 𝐂𝐴 continued to wander, seeking a cure for her sister and carrying the weight of every life she'd taken. She visited the graves of her fallen comrades often, leaving flowers and sugar candies on each one. For Shiel, a small pair of scissors. For Chelsea, a lollipop. For 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆, a flask of sake. Always for 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆. In a remote mountain village, far from the capital, a massive dragon with silver scales and wings that blotted out the sun guarded the pass. Villagers said it was a guardian spirit, protecting them from monsters and bandits. No army dared approach. No tyrant could threaten them. And riding on the dragon's back, laughing into the wind with her pink hair streaming behind her, was a woman with a cannon. They were seen together at sunset, flying toward the horizon, chasing a future that was finally worth fighting for. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the capital, a statue was erected. Not of a general or a king, but of a young man with a sword, a determined smile, and a heart that refused to break. The inscription read simply, "For those who gave everything so that others might live." The sun rose over a capital that no longer belonged to tyrants. The gallows that had once decorated every square were dismantled. The crosses were burned. The imperial archives were thrown open, and every false conviction, every trumped-up charge, every execution order signed by honest's fat fingers was exposed to the light. Justice, for the first time, was not a weapon of the powerful. It was a promise to the people. Night Raid's remaining members gathered one last time at their old hideout in the Marg Highlands. Not for a mission, not for a battle, for a farewell. Susanoo had prepared a feast. Because of course he had. The man could do literally anything except tolerate Chelsea's ghost haunting his perfectly organized kitchen. The team sat around the table, the empty chairs more numerous than the filled ones. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆's seat, left open with a flask of sake. Shields with a small pair of scissors. Chelsea's with a lollipop. Even Susanoo paused his relentless efficiency to bow his head. 𝒏𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 raised her cup. To the fallen? Without them, none of this would exist. They drank. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was reverent. A moment for the dead to breathe among the living. Then Leon burped, and the solemnity shattered. All right, enough crying. 𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒆 would have been making terrible jokes by now, and we all know it. Lubbock snorted. He'd have taken his shirt off by the third drink. And challenged everyone to arm wrestle, Mine added, a genuine smile cracking through her tsundere armor. And lost to 𝒂𝐿𝐴. 𝒂𝐿𝐴 tilted her head. He never lost on purpose. He was genuinely weaker than me. The table erupted in laughter. The kind that comes after grief, when healing finally begins. One by one they shared their plans. Leon would remain in the capital, using her fists and her connections to keep the new government accountable. She'd already busted 3 corrupt officials trying to fill honest shoes. Same corruption, different faces, she growled. But I've got 2 hands and plenty of patience. Lubbock was officially retiring from fieldwork to become Najenda's personal assistant, a position he'd been angling for since before Tatsumi joined. It's not creepy if it's true love, he insisted. Najenda rolled her one eye so hard it nearly popped out. I'm assigning you to latrine duty. Worth it. Kurome was stable, recovering slowly in a remote care facility. 𝒂𝐿𝐴 had found a healer in the far eastern provinces who specialized in curses and drug-induced mental damage. The journey would be long and dangerous, but 𝒂𝐿𝐴 had carried Murasame through worse. I'll return when she's cured, 𝒂𝐿𝐴 said quietly, or I won't return at all. She looked at Tatsumi, the boy she'd trained, stripped naked and threatened to castrate, the boy who'd become a dragon. You were the worst student I ever had, she said, and the best partner. Tatsumi, his body now permanently scaled, and his eyes holding the ancient power of 𝒂𝐿𝒆's monster lineage, bowed his head. Thank you, 𝒂𝐿𝐴, for everything. And then there was mine. She stood beside Tatsumi, her hand in his clawed grip, her pumpkin cannon slung across her back. She wasn't staying in the capital. She wasn't joining the new government. She had a different mission. Someone has to make sure this idiot doesn't fly into a mountain, she declared. Tatsumi, now fully transformed into a silver-scaled dragon with wings that could eclipse the sun, rumbled a laugh that shook the ground. I've only hit 2 mountains. 2 mountains too many, Mine shot back. She climbed onto his back without hesitation, settling between his massive shoulder blades. Besides, the villages on the frontier still need protection. Monsters don't care about revolutions. Najenda nodded. You'll be our eyes and ears in the borderlands, and our first line of defense. Mine saluted with her middle finger. Same as always, boss. As the sun climbed higher, the farewells ended. Leon bear-hugged Tatsumi's massive neck, tears in her eyes. Lubbock shook his claw. Najenda placed her hand on his snout. Your village would be proud, she said. Bulat would be proud. Tatsumi's dragon eyes, usually cold and predatory, softened. He couldn't speak anymore. The transformation had taken his human voice, but he didn't need to. The way he gently nuzzled each of them said everything words couldn't. And then, with a beat of wings that sent dust swirling across the highlands, Tatsumi launched into the sky. Mine whooped, her pink hair streaming behind her, her laughter echoing across the peaks. They rose higher and higher, the capital shrinking to a speck, the empire's ruins fading into memory. Ahead lay the frontier, ahead lay danger, adventure, and a life that was finally their own. Behind them, a new era was dawning, built on blood, sacrifice, and the stubborn, unbreakable hope of a handful of assassins who dared to believe the world could change. Somewhere in the capital, a young artist finished carving a statue. It stood in the center of the rebuilt main square. A young man with a sword, his face frozen in determination, his eyes looking toward the horizon. At the base, visitors left offerings, sake bottles, swords, lollipops, scissors, and a small handwritten note that someone had wedged between the stones. Thank you for proving that even the weakest among us can become heroes. If this story lit a fire in your chest, do what Night Raid would want. Smash that like button with the force of a dragon's punch, subscribe to Curious Nerd Anime Recap for more absolutely unhinged breakdowns of the wildest anime sagas, and drop a comment below. Who was your favorite Night Raid member? Mine's Sacrifice, Bulet's mentorship, Chelsea's final mission, or maybe you're an Akame purist who respects the one-slice queen. Let the community know. And if you're thirsty for more action-packed, soul-crushing, adrenaline-injecting recaps, click the video on screen right now. We've got plenty more where this came from. This has been your Curious Nerd. Stay lethal, stay legendary, and never let anyone put a collar on your neck.